Hi everyone. I'm not one to discriminate, so when it comes to breakfast, I'll eat it any time of the day. How about you? Anyone else like to eat breakfast for dinner? Anyone? Well, today we're gonna make quiche and have that nice buttery flaky crust, gooey cheese and savory fillings for dinner. So the recipe I'm gonna make for you today is kind of how I cook oftentimes, is I'll find an inspiration or recipe and then tweak it to what works best for me. There's nothing that says recipes have to be followed exactly, step by step, no variations. That's where creativity and, to be honest, what's in your refrigerator can come into play. So come eat with me, Lori Ann Lee. So this is the cookbook that I got inspiration for this quiche from, the America's Test Kitchen Family Cookbook. And anytime I'm cooking, I always make sure that I have all the ingredients measured out and planned and prepped, because there's nothing worse than cooking and then getting halfway through a recipe and going, oh no, I don't have this ingredient. So in the world of cooking, this is called mise en place. That means everything has a place. And so for this quiche that I'm making, I have some ground pork that I seasoned with salt, pepper, celery salt, a little red chili flakes. Now, I'm a big wimp when it comes to spices, so just a couple of shakes of red chili flakes and some garlic powder. I've got some chopped up onions, some mushrooms, a can of artichoke hearts that I've quartered. I've got some spinach prepped. This is Gruyere cheese. I've got my eggs. This is the ingredient that I thought, why would he ever put thyme in it? But this flavor of the thyme really makes the quiche. I've got some salt and pepper, and this is half milk and half not whipped cream, because there's no sugar, it's not whipped, but whipping cream. Now, today I'm not making a pie crust from scratch. I'm actually using my favorite, which is the Marie Callender's. No, they don't sponsor me, not yet. Marie Callender's frozen pie crust. So I've tried other brands, but flavor-wise and quality, I definitely like the Marie Callender's best. Now you'll notice this one has a bunch of cracks because these come in 2 packs, and I've already used one, and this sat in my freezer, which, during the holidays, there's lots of stuff in there. So got a little crack, but it won't make a difference. It's all gonna taste great anyway. So I've already preheated my oven. My oven has been preheating. It is set to 400 degrees, which is the directions on the packaging. So I've already poked holes using a fork. You can see I've poked holes just so that the pie crust doesn't poof up and it stays nice and flat. So I'm gonna put this in the oven. We're going to par bake this for about 12 minutes. And then while that is baking, I'm going to work on cooking up the toppings so that will be ready to go into the oven when the pie crust is done. So an important piece of this recipe process is once the pie shell has been par baked, it's important to put in the cheese and the custard and the filling while the filling is still warm. So that will help make sure that the crust doesn't get all soggy and everything will be cooked through. For saving myself having to wash too many dishes, instead of using a separate bowl for this mixture, which again is half cream and half whole milk, I'm going to crack my eggs into this cup directly. So I'm using a 2-cup measuring cup, and it's only filled halfway with liquid. So 1, 2, and 3 eggs. Let me just rinse my hand a little bit. Okay, cleanliness is important. So now I'm going to break these eggs and mix them into the dairy. And I'm going to add the salt. I could use measuring spoons, but I've made this recipe so many times, I just eyeball based on feel and sight, which the more you cook, you'll be able to do to approximate the measurements. So now I've added the salt and pepper, and I'm going to add that secret ingredient, but it's not really a secret, of a few shakes of thyme. There. Now that will be our custard filling. One of the things that I make sure I always do when I'm cooking is I clean as I go. And so when I started the video, you notice I had all of these ingredients, my mise en place, set aside on a plate ready to go. Before I started the video, I had my chopping board out, I had all of the ingredients, cans and everything. So I wash as I go so that when I'm done, I can just eat my food and enjoy it and not have to clean up. So that's a good that's a good strategy for you to use. Now for this recipe, like I said, I flex and mix things up depending on what's in my fridge. So I had onion, I had a can of artichoke hearts in my pantry, I had mushrooms, and I had some spinach. So that's what I'm using. Sometimes I'll use tomatoes, sometimes I've cooked a quiche with spinach or broccoli. Really, it's just whatever I happen to have on hand. I didn't have any bacon today, so I could have used bacon. Sometimes I've made quiche with bacon and sausage, linguiça. Let's see what else. Oh, I did a shrimp base as my protein one time. All right, so now the sausage, it's still pink, but it has started to brown and it's starting to cook down, so that's good. Now it's at a point where I'm going to add in the onion. It's all right, a couple of mushrooms fell in, it's not the end of the world. I just don't want to add everything all at once because especially the mushrooms and artichoke hearts have so much moisture. So I always start with the protein and then add my aromatics like onions. And then once this cooks down a little bit, I'll add the mushrooms and the artichoke hearts. And then lastly, I'll add the spinach. So I'm going to stop the video now and check back in when the filling and pie crust are ready for the next step. Okay, my timer went off. The pie crust is par cooked. It's ready to be filled. I've turned off the heat on the stove. I don't know if you can see, but this is lovely. There's golden brown. I know there's lots of steam. So you probably can't see it close up, but I can see it. And you can see that big bowl of spinach has really cooked down. And so that's why I really like to start cooking my filling right when I put in the shell to par bake. So that any moisture that's in here, because a lot of the vegetables are so wet, it gets cooked down because I don't want a soggy quiche. You don't want a soggy quiche, do you? Okay, so I'm going to make sure I have everything ready. So I have my 2 ounces of shredded Gruyere. I've got that custard I made that has 3 eggs, half a cup of milk, half a cup of cream, salt, pepper, and thyme. So the first thing we're going to do is add the cheese to our crust. Okay, so I have my crust. I'm going to pull it out a little bit so that I can have easy access to it. And I'm going to sprinkle in the cheese. Make sure I get every last piece. And I'm going to spread that out, even coating on the bottom and coming up the sides of the crust. All right, let's see. Can you see this? Oh no, I just squished it. Okay, I'm not gonna pull it out. All right, the next step is to add filling. On top of that cheese. In it goes. Make sure that looks spread out pretty evenly. Okay, finally, it's time to pour in the custard. And this is very important. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna push this in just a little bit. That will be more flat so that it doesn't spill. And I'm going to carefully reach in, pour in the custard, and then I'm going, oh, it's spilling a little bit, but that's okay. I'm gonna push that in, make sure that's nice and centered, and close the oven. Now, I'm gonna set a timer for 40 minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, the timer went off. It's time to take the quiche out of the oven. Wow, look at that beauty. Beautifully golden brown crust, light golden brown melted cheese custard on top. I'm gonna let this sit for between 5 to 10 minutes, and then it'll be time to cut it open and eat. All right, it's time to cut into this quiche. It smells yummy. I smell the thyme. I did have quite a bit of leakage onto the baking sheet, but that's a good reason why I laid down parchment paper so that cleanup would be a breeze. You can see, woo, cookie sheet doesn't look all dirty and crusted on. I lifted up that parchment paper that had the drippage and it was done. Okay. So the first piece is kind of like, you know how when you make pancakes, the first one is never pretty. I find that's the same thing with quiche. All right, let's see. Here, the pan is hot. I don't know why I'm trying to hold that with my hand. Oh, what a dork. Okay, so here's my quiche. You see, I added in some Persian cucumbers to round out my dinner. I'm ready to try this. I'm going to take a bite. Oh, that's hot. That is hot, but oh my God. It's so good. Even though I didn't use sausage, I only had ground pork. That was a good choice on my part to season the pork before cooking it. So it was almost like I made my own sausage. The sausage and the cheese has a nice chew. Love artichoke hearts. Another successful quiche. Oh, it's so yummy. So again, I started with the recipe and then tweaked it based on what happened to be in my refrigerator and what supplies I had in my pantry. And it was easy and it's delicious. So who's gonna come eat with me? Lori Ann Lee. we'll see what's next. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you try it and let me know how it goes. I'll post the recipe in the comments. Thanks for joining.